How are you?
Good evening and welcome. Tonight is the meeting of the board to discuss the budget. It is March the 29th, 2023. If all goes well, we will vote to approve a budget this evening, but first we will take the roll. So would you take attendance, Ms. Hastings?
I will. Mr. Richards.
Here.
Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Mr. Weinberg is going to be remote. Is that correct?
Mr. Weinberg has notified me that he would like to participate in this meeting remote. He gave me the appropriate 24 hours notice. It's because he cannot be here due to a school commitment, and we will vote on that after we take the remainder of the roll.
Okay. Mr. Cotton.
Here.
Ms. Robinson.
Here.
Ms. Meeker.
Here.
And Mr. Croto.
Here.
I am here, and we are missing Ms. Higgins.
Right, so that means we have a physical quorum, which is one of the other requirements for allowing Mr. Weinberg to participate remotely. The next thing we need to do is the board has to vote to accept Mr. Weinberg as a remote participant, in which case, after which we will, if it is in the affirmative, we will include him. I'll just note that all votes will have to be a roll call vote because of the remote participation. So with that, and Jack, do I need to go through as to what RSA this is allowed under?
It's all right there, number 2.
Oh, okay, so as the presiding officer, I will ask the remaining members to determine the fact whether we will allow the member to participate remotely, in this case Mr. Weinberg, because of it was not practical for him to physically be present today. This is under RSA 91A2, Roman numeral 3. So with that, I will make a motion to allow Mr. Weinberg to participate remotely. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Croto. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify, well, we have to do a roll call vote because they're all going to be roll calls tonight. So if you do the roll call vote?
Mr. Richards.
Yes.
Ms. Walsh.
Yes.
Mr. Cotton.
Yes.
Ms. Meeker.
Yes.
Mrs. Robinson. Ms.
Yes.
Robinson. And Mr. Croto.
Yes.
So having everyone voted in the affirmative, that motion passes. Mr. Weinberg, you may participate remotely. We're sorry to not have you physically here with us, but we appreciate you making the effort to be remote.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I will ask you a couple of questions, qualifying questions for your participation. One, can you hear us? Because I know we can hear you, we just did.
Yes.
Good. And are you alone or do you have other people present that would be overhearing you?
I am using headphones. I am in a public setting. However, I am alone in my vicinity.
It looks very nice where you are, actually. Very nice. So, very good. So that qualifies. And with that, we will move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Well, I'll first ask Superintendent, do you have anything to open the meeting up
No,
with?
I don't. We're gonna go right to Jack, who's gonna bring us to the budget and hopefully a vote tonight.
Very good. Mr. Dunn?
All right, I'll do my little show before and after and get you where you need. All right, so tonight's meeting is work session number 13 for the vote on the FY24 budget. This will be very similar to last night's vote. This file is in your drive. Again, we go over the goals, the statuses. The only thing I've added tonight is that I have an update on state adequacy based on House Bill 2. That information was sent to me by the DOE about 30 minutes ago because I had requested it earlier. Just to give you an idea, we're monitoring it, but still has a long way to go. But you don't have a long way to go. So, and then open it for your discussion. I'll go over the important dates, the work sessions that you've completed, where to find everything, then open it for public comment because this is a work session but posted as a special board meeting. And then we have a proposed motion for you to consider based on the budget you posted, and then if there's adjustments we could talk about how that's going to happen. All right, so very quickly, same goals that were built for this budget. Priority 1, so we did equity and diversity. 2, curriculum and instruction. 3, social emotional learning. 4, communication. 5, facilities. 6, safety. The budget, as we take through the steps, this is the original budget posted. Again, a 2.44% increase in expenditures, a 2.39% increase in revenue. In that budget, it included the following 2 pages of positions. Each tied to the strategic plan. One of the first decisions the board made was as it relates to a contracted service for an SRO at Runlet that has been removed. When that was removed, that resulted in a budget increase of 2.35% and a revenue increase of 2.29%. Then you instructed us for a posted budget to come up with some options that range from a $675,000 cut to a $2.825 million cut. So the local rate would be impacted by the change of cents and the change of percent. The state rate would not change to give you a cumulative rate that would be a local of 1.56 all the way up to a little under 5%, a combined rate of 3% or as much as 6.15. You posted a budget for us to come back to you with a $2.15 million reduction. So that would result in a 35-cent increase in the local rate for a combined rate of 58 cents or 3.96%. Those options included some refinancing and withdrawal for technology between a loan and funding technology for next year, moving math coaches to Title II for 1 year only, ending the position in '24, splitting the public information officer between Perkins and the general fund, adding the district OT, Abbott Downing preschool program that would be new, and the DEIJ would all be funded from the Extraordinary Needs Grant. This was funds you received in October that you put into your instructional trust. So far, the math coach and the district funds, all this is using one-shot money. Eliminating a position at the high school, and also the curriculum coordinator would be eliminated, and then we would bring in additional revenue from the health risk reserve to get to the 2.1 million. That resulted in an expenditure increase of 1.39% and revenue increase of 1.32. Here is the history from the first one I put in based on what the estimate is that you had posted for your budget, but all the rest of that is from the City of Concord's assessor's website showing you the history of those tax rates back to 2000. Those, based on that posted budget and what you had up until last night, that would result in an estimated $105 increase on the local rate on a $300,000 home. The state rate combined would be $174. Again, I reiterate, the state you have no control over. It's dictated by the legislature and in statute. Nothing you can do about it. School nutrition budget, about $2.3 million for next year. And the grants, again, these are the entitlement grants, and we level fund that. Typically what we do is we take what we got last year and mimic that, because we won't know what our entitlement is until the earliest end of April, but could be as late as July or August before we know. This is not all inclusive of any competitive grants that we've received or competitive grants that we're going after. State adequacy update. So I presented in your public hearing, and maybe right before that the governor's proposal had adjusted the adequacy formula and was looking to remove some things, add more money to the base. As you can see on the left-hand side, right now under current law it's $3,866. He had proposed going to $4,700 for base, and as you move down you can see the various numbers that was proposed in the governor's budget. His budget would result in Concord getting over the biannual $3.2 million more. 1.3 next year, and in FY25, 1.8 million. Today I received the breakdown of all the towns under the new HB2 amendment. And the next slide, Amendment 2023-1107H, as of 3/23. That would result in Concord getting 7.1 million over the biannual. So, as I mentioned to you in the formula, once the House got it, they kept talking about adding on the right side of the formula, which we knew would help Concord significantly, and that's what it appears. You know, again, still got a long way to go. It's still got to go through the Senate, but just to give you an idea, we're keeping an eye on it. But it's just the governor comes in with one, and now they're going a little higher. It's interesting. So we will see. Continue, but they're going till June. Where hopefully you're only going till tonight. But again, you have some flexibility, as you know from board members who've been here in the past. As a legislative body, you have a lot of uniqueness, and will be helpful to you as you try to manage this budget and balance the taxes, balance revenue, which is good for, I think, the community. That's where I'm at. So I'm at the same slide now I was as of last night. So anything I added was the update really to adequacy. So I have in here for you to discuss. I will just talk about the public, where all the information is, and there's a public comment section for when you're ready, and then a proposed motion if you so wish. So.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Dunn. Mr. Cogswell, our board treasurer is here tonight. It's nice to see you. Are you here to caution us not to spend too much money, or?
I'm just going to say what a wonderful job you guys did.
Oh,
I've been following.
well, I know when you took the position that you'd maintain your oversight, so I appreciate the fact that you're following us. So very, very glad to have you with us. Mr. Dunn has us at this point as a board discussion, and I just want to ask the board, do they want to have public comment before our discussion or after our discussion? Because I anticipate there will be some public comment, and Mr. Dunn had public comment in just before we voted, but I'll open it up to you as to whether we maintain this agenda or if we alter it. Go ahead, Mr. Croto.
I think if people took the time to come here, it would be wise to listen and talk about what they have to say or think about it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any different opinion? May I take that as a motion, Mr. Croto, to
You
move?
certainly may.
To move our public
Second.
comment up to this point?
There he is.
Did Jonathan second it?
Yes, he did. Very quickly, I'll add.
Jonathan seconded
I'm
it.
never gonna second a motion because Jonathan will get there first.
His,
I'm efficient.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Hastings, when you're ready, we will do this in a roll call vote.
So I just want to double check that I have Mr. Croto making the motion and Mr. Weinberg seconding.
That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
I will say yes. Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
Okay, we are
Okay.
all set.
The motion having passed, we will change the agenda as initially presented to have public comment at this time. I will remind the public that the board policy applies with regards to public comment. We ask you to keep it at 5 minutes or less, and it is the policy of this board not to say anything that is identifiable or direct to any student or teacher or staff member. You can say what you'd like about the board. when you're making your comments. So with that, I will also ask you to sign in, and so that we have your name correct for our minutes, as well as your place of residence. So do I have anyone who would like to make a public comment this evening? I believe, I was going to say, Mr. Cogswell, are you going to make a public comment this
I am
evening?
not.
You're not?
No,
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to. I'm just happy to have you here.
I couldn't see the board, so I thought,
You're
well,
you're our
on the
treasurer.
team.
You're more than welcome to sit as well. You can actually sit here in this seat if you'd really like. You've sat here before, so.
I have.
Is there anyone else who would like to make any public comment? Go ahead, Mr. Macri.
Yeah, I don't know how many board members received the email and attachment I sent out this afternoon. I just want to draw the board's attention to the fact that the plan to eliminate a sped coordinator position at the high school and transfer that responsibility over to an existing administrator at the high school would be in opposition to labor law, and the CEA would be obligated to file a charge with the labor board for that move. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. It seems, part of it to me seems a little preposterous to think that one administrator at the high school is going to handle all the special education needs of a school that large. And in 2017, a similar occurrence happened where former Principal Steve Rothenberg and former Superintendent Terry Forson approached me, and we had a meeting, and they made a case that there was an open sped coordinator position at the high school at the time, and they made a case, a strong case, which I listened to and eventually agreed to, that they wanted to create an administrative position for special ed at the high school at the time. And I agreed, but in that letter, if you look at the attachment I sent you, I indicated that this was a one-time exception and that the other sped coordinator position would remain a bargaining unit position. So I just wanted to draw that to the board's attention for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macri. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Macri? All right, thank you very much.
Is this a signing?
Right here. Go.
No,
Yeah, this
it's
one,
under
yeah,
here.
it's under here.
Oh, you got it.
There you go. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment this evening with regards to the budget? Okay, not seeing any, I will close the public comment portion. Thank you. And we will move on now to board discussion. So with that, I open it up for anyone on the board who would like to put anything out there, whether it's relative to our posted budget and any addition or amendments for approval for the approved budget. Ms. Walsh.
I guess I have some questions. I have some questions that we would probably require a non-public session.
Okay, that's fine. In which case, here, I'll let you make the motion.
Jack, I need your little cheat sheet.
Yep, let me see if I can, I might have to just hop out.
Hold on, 91A3.
I'm trying to think how I,
Where did all your laminated copies go?
oh, yeah, it's up
Actually,
there.
right here.
That's right. So is this,
Pass that over. We have
Perfect.
sheets. For those of us who
yeah,
don't
is this,
remember all the
the
numbers.
the C one, matters
Yes.
which are discussed? Okay, that's right
I
there.
move that we go into non-public session under 91A3, Section C, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, and so, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy.
Okay, so the motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cotton. Ms. Hastings, let me know when you're ready for a roll call vote.
Mr. Richards,
Yes.
Ms. Walsh,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Mr. Weinberg,
Yes.
Mr. Cotton,
Yes.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Croto.
Yes.
Okay, so we will go into non-public shortly. Right now, I want to ask Mr. Dunn, how do we plan to handle Mr. Weinberg's?
Mr. Weinberg is
call
in
home?
cyberspace.
Oh.
We can move him wherever we want.
Yeah.
Portably carry Mr. Weinberg
As long as we make sure we turn him off this screen.
Yeah, we'll turn them off and make sure that that's
from the screen.
What's that?
If it's complicated as well, you can exclude me.
No, I think it'll be okay as long as Mr. Dunn has the speaker attached to his computer, and his computer is not attached to the public.
It is only to this.
Very good. I do not know how long we will be,
Hopefully only
but it's only
5-10
probably
minutes.
10 minutes or so. So we will leave and come back to our public meeting when we are done. We're non-public. All right, we are out, we are coming back from a non-public session. I would entertain a motion to come out of non-public and back into public session.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Robinson.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cotton. So roll call vote whenever you're ready, Ms. Hastings.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Higgins?
Yep.
Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
Okay. We are now back in public session.
Move to seal the minutes.
The motion to seal the minutes by Mr. Cotton,
Seconded.
seconded by Ms. Robinson, and that is pursuant to the same reason we went into non-public session.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
Okay. That having been done, we are back, I'll bring us back into our public discussion of the budget. Does anyone have any questions, discussion points that they would like to bring to this board?
Would now be a good time to entertain a motion that was tabled at the previous meeting?
You may remove that motion from the table if you'd like, yes.
I move to remove. I move that we bring back for discussion the motion I had made at Monday's meeting regarding the potential increase in math coaches in the budget from 3 to 5.
Okay. The motion is made to remove from the table the math coach motion to increase the coaches in the budget from 3 to 5. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Robinson. Whenever you're ready, Ms. Hastings, we'll have a vote.
Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Weinberg? Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker? Why do I do that to you? I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
short hair.
It's not. Mr. Croto, Ms. Croto. Well, now we're even, so.
Yes.
Lord.
All right, so we are removed from the table the budget motion from our last meeting relative to the math coaches. Ms. Hastings, do you have that motion that you can read to us, or?
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
It was friendly amended, too.
It was a lot of
So
time.
I would like to put that out there, and, you know, the motion, the people who have made the motion, I know Ms. Meeker made it, and there were a few seconds and amendments to it, anybody who has any corrections or clarifications, we will welcome that.
Well, that would be super great. What I have is to increase the number of math coaches from 3 to 5 for the 23-24 school year, with a plan for tracking success by adding evidence, and that's where you all lost me. So maybe.
I think, yeah, my friendly amendment was for the administration to provide a wind-down plan for those positions for this to be the last year. If this is the last year, then we need to have guidance about how we're using those positions wisely while they're still with us.
Okay. So do we have discussion about that now?
Yes, we do. Go ahead first, Ms. Hastings, then Mr. Crow.
I've spent a ton of time thinking about this discussion that we've been having, and I've gone back and forth what seems like 100 times. We didn't look at any data to get evidence that these positions really did impact, but I have received some through instructional committee and things that have been sent to me, interesting facts that seem to show that our students have made good growth this year. Superintendent Murphy let us know on Monday evening that it seemed like students were within about 6 months to a year of being behind. So we have made significant growth, And I think that these two positions, that if we were to add 2 more positions to keep them at 5 for the following year, letting the coaches do what they've been doing, because it seems to be working, and perhaps taking next year to look and see if this is something that we should move to the general budget as a math specialist in the buildings rather than a math coach at that point. We have reading specialists in the building, and there's obvious evidence that they're effective in helping our students become better readers. And, you know, we also have heard that we have 40 students currently in the algebra program at the high school. So where do we make the biggest growth for our students and get them to where we want them to be by the time they get to high school is in the elementary schools. Those basic facts, those number understandings, that number sense, it's so important. And the best place to do that is early, in my opinion. So that would be my my thoughts on that. I would really like to see us add those 2 back for another year, taking next year to really study whether we want to continue them or not. Maybe not even as a math coach at that point. But if they're making the kind of growth and progress with our students that they seem to be, why would we want to take that away from our students? I guess that's where I'm thinking. That's where I'm leaning today.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Croto?
Well, I have one point of clarification. At the amendment the other evening, it seemed to me that Ms. Robinson said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
I'll correct you if I need to.
Thank you. that we definitely asked the superintendent to give us sort of a wind down plan. But I thought I also heard in there assessment as well, which if it wasn't added in, I would like to add it in there. I mean, as we're
I have my notes, and
It
it was
was.
in there,
Where was
evidence
it?
of
Okay.
assessments, so.
good. All right, so that no problem.
When
That's done.
When Sarah does the notes, finishes the notes from Monday night, that will be in there.
Okay, terrific. That was my one.
Yeah.
But then the other is, so I've just completely done a 180 here, and my feeling about the math coaches is that we've just been through a very extraordinary time with this pandemic. Our kids got hurt from it. As I sit here as a board member, my allegiance is both to taxpayers and to kids. And I try to figure out who's going to be hurt more by a decision that I make or who's going to be more beneficial. And so I think because of these extraordinary times, one more year of math coaches makes sense for the amount of money that out of this $1 million or $100 million budget that nearly, it's well worth it.
Okay. Ms. Higgins?
I have two thoughts here. Oftentimes when we come down to where do we cut, and keep in mind this is my 11th budget, so I have a lot to remember. We often pick the most struggling, weakest, so to speak, people in our communities, and that's where the cuts come. And so when I look at all of the things that we've been trying to do to add an assistant principal at the high school without adding another entire administrator's salary to the budget, and who are we going to cut to do that? And we've gone round and round about that. And then we've talked about the math coaching positions and 5 versus 3, and if we can't have 5, we don't want any. And you know, there's a lot of emotion in these responses here. I don't think we should raise the budget. I think we did a really good job coming up with this number. I also know there's a lot of freedom and a lot of wiggle room in how we fund things in this district, that I think we can keep these positions in our budget. I think we can have the administrative support we need. I think we can have the math coaches without raising the tax rate. I think it's our job to get creative with making it happen, whether it's tapping into trust funds, whether it's giving our superintendent freedom to utilize the superintendent's contingency fund. There are ways to do it. I get it. Who's going to suffer? But I don't know, an elderly couple on a fixed income that loves their house that they've lived in for 50 years shouldn't have to lose it for 2 positions, nor should a group of struggling math students not learn the way they need to learn. It's a winless battle here. So if we as a board and administrative team can take our budget and how do we do this and get creative and make it happen, then I think that we have time to do that. We don't have to know that right now to talk about these positions. The teacher in me thinks we keep them. The citizen doesn't know, you know.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton.
I'm just going to play the devil's advocate here. One of the things that bothers me about this is that, as I understand the positions for math coaches, they are teacher-facing, not student-facing. They're teaching teachers how to teach math. They've been doing that for a couple of years. I'm wondering what more they're going to teach to the teachers. I'm wondering, you know, if we're talking about math interventionists, like reading specialists, that are working with students who are struggling, that's one thing. But that's not supposed to be what this position is. They're teaching people who are teachers how to teach more effectively. And I question how much longer we have to keep on teaching teachers how to teach to a certain extent.
They don't work with students.
Can I follow up?
Because you're far away and you can't see us, I will let you go, because I would like to say something, and then Ms. Robinson and Ms. Hastings, but you may go, Mr. Weinberg.
To follow up on the comment that Mr. Cotton made, it sounds like a lot of the concerns are based in student performance and helping students catch up, in quotation marks. But wouldn't that be better served through math interventionists rather than math coaches? To go back to Mr. Cotton's point.
Thank you. And I will step in here and say I share Mr. Cotton's concerns. One of the things I am concerned about the math performance in our schools right now. I don't think we're where we need to be. We're not even discussing the fact that we're just cutting out the math coach at the middle school. And I feel that the middle school, in my personal opinion, needs a tremendous amount of attention. That's the place that leads into Algebra 1. And I go back and forth, as so many of you on the board have, on this, and I see the benefits. But in this case, I'm leaning more towards deferring to the administration's recommendation for 3, which is better than 0. And I would hope that they are looking into what we need to do in our middle schools with regards to math. So, and I don't like to raise the budget, and I will say that a trust fund, dipping into our trust fund, is the same as raising taxes. That trust fund came from people's taxes. That came, spending it one way or the other is still tax money, and so I think about that. Thank you. And now, Ms. Robinson, and then Ms. Hastings.
So I have shared concerns about being able to track that. I believe that these folks are making a huge impression. Otherwise, we wouldn't have heard about them and heard so much advocacy about their work. And I'm seeing it in my own home with my own kiddos. 2 girls that are both really loving math now, when I would say before this position was applied, they were not feeling that way. And I think from an anecdotal standpoint, that's a huge win, considering where our culture sits when it comes to kiddos and any kind of STEM pathway. That being said, we have 3 major positions that we're adding that are currently in extraordinary needs grant funding land that we will need to add next budget. That's going to be a huge hit. So this temporary small tax increase, I am not foreseeing us being able to do that next year. So I'm sort of steeling myself for next year's conversation, and I would say that if we can keep these for one more year, I think that is the just thing to do for our kids. But we also have to be aware that there are really critical positions that we are required by law to have, and others that are also a matter of justice in our community. So that's why I had asked for some kind of accountability planning for that one last year, so that it sort of strikes the balance of giving our kiddos what they need and helping our teachers meet their own personal goals, because they're generalists. They have to teach way more than just math. So we can understand that we're not, they're not PhDs in math. They're, specialized folks learning how to teach young kiddos. So this is a really great opportunity for one more year. But yes, I am concerned about next year's budget. I'm concerned about the dollars then, because I really feel like it's going to hit us, and I'm trying to preempt that.
Thank you. Ms. Hastings.
To Mr. Cotton's point about the coaches coaching teachers, I think that was our understanding of those positions. I'm not sure in effect that's how the positions have been used.
Exactly.
My understanding is that there has been student intervention and that it has been incredibly beneficial to the students, which is why when I suggested my thoughts on that, I said that we continue to let them do what they've been doing. Because our understanding of the position, and I think the reality might be a little bit different, but nonetheless, it seems to be effective. So I'm all for helping these kids. And we have the money in the instructional fund, and yes, I guess that's tax money, but it's tax money that isn't
already
being
have.
spent right now. It's already collected. We don't have to collect more money from taxpayers to fund those positions.
Ms. Higgins and then Mr. Cotton.
So some clarifications. Not surprisingly, I communicate a lot with teachers, especially special ed teachers in our district at all levels. And I have a text here from the last couple of days, and it basically says, currently our math coaches are working with our struggling students, and there are lots of them. They have also been able to organize our Title I tutors, so they are working as a team with a common goal. When you think of a Title I tutor, that isn't necessarily, that's a person that's working in a million different classrooms. It would be very easy for 2 or 3 Title I tutors to be very disjointed. If there's somebody that's organizing them, so they then go into the classrooms and have much more effective teaching, well, even though that might not be directly to students, that's an incredibly positive role model for those tutors. And three classroom teachers that share 5 tutors can't get together and do that with them because they're teaching. So you're right, the math coaches, their initial thing is to solidify what the teachers are able to teach, but that doesn't exclude students. Nor is it just rah-rah for the teachers, and I think like anyone in a building with children, y'all end up working with the children. So I don't feel that the math coaches are separate from the children. Not based on, and this is one little paragraph. If I could read my phone if y'all want me to.
Mr. Cotton.
I guess I would just like to once again ask the superintendent, I mean, for one thing, I think these positions were funded with grants. Those grants are specific as to what they're supposed to do and allowed to do. And I'd like to again hear what your understanding of what the math coach's role is, because it's not intervention.
The math coach's role was, from the get-go, the opportunity to provide coaching to classroom teachers in the elementary school and in the middle school in order to increase their skill level, and making sure that they were incorporating new strategies and new ways to teach mathematics. Through training, the math coaches would be working in the classroom, demonstrating, modeling lessons, co-teaching at times with teachers. Now, I know for a fact that there were times in some of the schools where those math coaches were working with kids. We knew that. We that was clear when we met with the teams at each of the schools and we did their data reviews. But you're right, they also have Title I tutors, math tutors, who work with that coach under the direction of the coach, giving them, the lesson or the content for which they were going to work with students. But in this new budget, the 3 coaches that we asked for, we've asked to take them out of Title II. That means that they're providing professional development to teachers, so they can't be interventionists. So we have to be very clear about that. That is not what Title II does. Title II does not provide instruction. It is not reducing, it used to be reduced class size and all that, not anymore. It's strictly Title II, professional development. So that was our goal. We discussed it with our math coordinator and obviously Kim as the curriculum assistant superintendent for curriculum. We discussed that, and that was very clear. And when we can improve the skills of all teachers for all kids, remember this is tier 1, these are all the kids in the classroom, then the evidence is clear that the students' performance, the students' ability to retain those skills improves. And we've seen that. There's no question about it. You know, we've seen growth much as a year, and in some cases we've closed the gap by 6 months. I mean, we've seen a lot of progress. In some places it's still flat, and we're still working on it. But we'll hopefully at the instructional committee meeting we are ready to present data now that we've finished all the schools' second round. We didn't want to bring first round data. It wasn't. We weren't ready for that. I don't know, Bob. Does that help?
Yeah, I think it clarifies things.
So Superintendent, I'm going to ask a question that you raised just now. It's technically, so if this motion were to pass and there would be 5, we would have to spend that Title II money over 5, or else they wouldn't, and they would have to, and would they have to keep a close track of their time so that any Title II responsibilities would be documented under that funding, and any other responsibilities would be whatever with this additional
Right. I
motion
mean,
would be.
that's federal grants. You know, federal grants. We have to attest to the hours every week that they spend working in title funds, whether it's Title I or III or II. It doesn't matter. We've never asked of Title II because the coaches were coaching. But technically, if they're funded by Title II, they have to do professional development. They are not there to be interventionists.
Other questions?
But you could pay them with a mix of funds, so they could do both. They would have to track their time, but it is possible if we put general fund dollars in to spread that over the 5 positions, so that they could do both.
Sure.
Mr. Cronin?
Okay, I think I just heard an answer to what I was going to say, because Mr. Richards, this, using Title II for all 5, feels like that's the first time we're talking about this tonight, right? No, we were talking about it for 3,
That's
but not
correct.
all 5.
3.
So this is,
But I mean, would you, and I will defer to people who know, could you hire 3 Title II math coaches and 2 non-Title II math coaches and have them do the same thing? Or would that be something, how would we do that?
Of course you could. You could have, they could all be doing the same job based on the job description. Doesn't
They would all have to
necessarily-
be doing then professional development, not any intervention.
Right, but it would depend on how it was written up. But because there wouldn't be any caveats if you're not in a Title II or a federal grant, right? That was the difference.
so I think it would feel more comfortable to me as a board member to know, how would we do this if we vote yes?
Yeah.
Well, but what I'm hearing is, first of all, if we put 5 positions into Title II, you completely drain that grant. That means that I don't have any money to do anything else. And we have other projects going on. We have UDL, which we're working with at the high school particularly. We have work with competencies across all grade levels. We're also working with restorative justice at the high school, and we have some money there. A small amount of money to New Hampshire Listens on our diversity work. That's been reduced because we're in our third year with them. So we've been able to reduce that, but that would really curtail all of the other things that are happening in the district. It isn't just math.
Right, so I guess I would come back around to say that we'd probably leave the 3 positions in Title II as proposed and go back to our $180,000, where do we get that? to pay for the other two. That should be on the table at this point.
Yeah, but if you did that,
do that,
then
yeah.
one teacher who is in Title II, who teaches at ABC Elementary School, would not be allowed to do any intervention or anything other than professional
I
development.
think that's the way
Okay.
it's gotta be if we're gonna take Title II money.
But-
Okay. Ms. Walsh, and then
But if,
who was next?
what I
Who's
was
on
trying
that?
to say is if you funded the positions roughly half and half, all five, you take every position, everybody is half Title II funded and half general funded or instructional trust or whatever we decided to do, then they could do both because they would be joint funded, so they, for their Title II hours, they would have to do just teacher professional development, but they could do intervention
So
in their other
3/5 of the
times.
total amount spent would be Title II, and 2/5 would be
Yes.
wherever else. Then all five of those teachers can do
Both.
3/5 of this.
Sure,
and
I
2/5 of this.
understand
Oh.
the plan, I'm just not sure that that's where we were heading when we started this conversation.
Well, I don't think we need to fund all five teachers with Title II money. We could still use the three teachers that we originally, but just spread it over five.
Right, that's what I
And then
just-
supplement with instructional fund money or wherever, not wherever, I don't mean to sound callous. But we could take the three positions, spread it out over five, and then add the money from another fund so that all five teachers were able to do what they would need to
Both.
do, both things. They would need to track their time.
Yeah, they wouldn't be
That
able to
would
do
be
more
the-
than 2/5 of one
Or,
thing.
or whatever the breakout was.
Whatever it adds up to.
Whatever it adds up
And I
to.
would
Go
also
ahead.
say, like, these are really skilled professional people with really great administrators looking out for them. However, we wind up funding, whether three are Title II and the other two are from another fund, I think we can trust them to do their jobs and sort of like, here's the balance, here's the job description, stay within it. We're counting on you to do so. And we have parameters that we're hoping that you'll be able to meet. Like having those goals can be helpful for any position staying on track. I mean, I'd like to think so, but I also, I trust these folks to do the right thing and to do what's best by teachers and by students, right?
Well, unfortunately, under federal funds, you can't just trust, you have to document. And so they would have to log
Yeah.
all of their hours. I spent 12 minutes helping doing this. I had 2 hours doing professional development. They had to do something like that. Go ahead, Ms. Meeker.
So I will say that I think we were prepared for that before we came to this meeting today because we tagged those as Title II. So we knew that there was going to be, some accountability measures that were going to have to go into the three. So regardless if we're talking 3 or 5, we knew that there was going to be a level of accountability there that's going to be required from our coaches next year. I think that actually lends to the concerns that actually helps us with our wind down strategy because when they're accountable for their time, however it's mixed, we have documentation. So that might actually just naturally help us move toward that, sort of wind down process and help the administration track what that looks like. I would like to just summarize a little bit because I'm hoping we can get to our finish line here. That the reason I brought up the numbers in the first place is because I feel like we've all identified that these positions are valuable, but that money is tight, so we came up with a compromise. My feeling was we have one more chance to give the teachers the consistency that they desire into their final year as math coaches, that it's more of an incentive to bring back our current coaches because the system would be the same. So really that's still where I'm at. It's, whether or not we want to have discussions in the future about what this position could look like moving forward, that's a conversation for another day because I feel like we're all here saying like this is really the last year of this particular iteration of this position. And I think that it's just time to decide. I think we have funds. I think we can pull it from trust funds, but we don't have to decide that tonight, other than to say we don't want to raise the tax rate, if that's correct. We would just add those positions to the budget and move forward. Is that right?
Well, I'll say if we add the positions, we have to have the funds because that's part of the budget. And I will just follow on that is that these are ESSER funds, all 5 go away this year. It's the compromise to put 3 that we were going to come up with things. So the compromise was already there, right? Because these items were to go away. This is needed because we're all remote and we're all out and we are dealing with COVID, right? That's why these positions are in there. We're all back in school right now, right? We have very skilled teachers who had 2 years of learning how to teach from these coaches. I think it was valuable and I think it was very important. I hesitate to put more money back into that. I think I'm okay with the three coach compromise, but I'm still not to the 5. And that's just where I stand right now. Anybody else? Not seeing any further discussion, we have a motion on the table to alter the budget to put back, how much additional money, Mr.?
A little over 183,000.
183,000 back into the budget. Do you need any more information than that, or
Just
I suppose it would have to come from?
Question for clarity, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is it our responsibility right now to designate whether that comes out of a trust fund or whether that comes out of the tax rate? Do we need to designate that right now?
I will say I've prepared a motion for whatever you want to do.
I knew you
I
would.
don't wanna raise
So, yes to your answer, but I'll show you
Yeah.
what I've done based on
Okay.
Mr. Weinberg's
Excellent.
request.
Okay, great. I wanted to
Monday
be
night.
sure we didn't lose that. Thank
Okay.
you.
I'm prepared.
Okay.
Okay, good. So with that, does anybody have any further questions?
Do you want me to
or
read the motion
clarifications?
as I understand it, to make sure we're all on?
Or do we
Yes,
need to
but first,
modify
let's
it?
listen to Mr. Crotos.
Well, I am sorry to continue to beat this horse. I feel like people at the table would need to know where the money's coming from before you make a vote. I mean, I would feel better. I mean, I kind of know where I'm going, but
Okay.
I think that
So you want that?
sets the stage for you.
Okay. I'll fast forward to the
I mean-
2 motions that I had the other one hidden. And I did that purposely, just because I didn't want to confuse the process, especially for those that are reading through the motions. So let me just make sure. Okay. I'm going to unhide 2. I just got to add wording on the bottom. Especially, I've done this before. It's rare, but I did it. But I kind of reminded me of it when I was watching the House Finance Division 2. So, this would be the motion you would approve as the budget with the 3 coaches, okay? I added the little caveat down the bottom that the board authorized the administration to make any adjustments to the FY budget numbers to reflect the intent of the board, just in case something, because I know how
Wonky.
what the heart rate would be tonight. So I prepared that in both of these slides. So this is if you want. If you add the 2 additional coaches, the amount goes up by $183,000 and a couple dollars. That money is coming out of the instructional trust fund. So see the number at 605? In the prior slide, it was 421.
Okay.
Okay? And the reason I did that, Mr. Weinberg had said that night, if we were to add 2 coaches on Monday, where would you fund it? Said instructional trust. That's where I do it. That amount totals that you're taking out of there, but of the positions that you're funding through that extraordinary needs, the 3, the DEIJ, and all,
DEIJ.
and then you add these 2, it's about 507,000 in positions. That's a little less than what you received for your whole entitlement back in October. So you're within the number that you had. You're basically now spending it all. That's all. Okay, so
Well-
if that makes sense. And then the appropriation increases, everything increases by that amount, that 183, yeah.
So, Jack, my recollection is at our meeting on Monday night, you said that the instructional trust fund has about $1 million in it.
Yeah.
So to add these 2 positions and take it out of the instructional trust fund, we'd be spending 60% of the entire trust fund.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
Just a follow-up question on it, but this was a grant that we received from the state this year that we decided to hold off on until this portion of the budget.
When you finalized your budget in October for this year, you had extra money that you received, and in your wisdom, you put it all away into various trusts in order for the community to get through these heart rate times, which are going to be, as you're seeing, like I said, some surrounding towns, because of the fortunate ability you're in as a legislative body. And what we're trying to do is smooth into normalcy. So that is why this money, that's why I recommend you pull it out of here. Obviously, you're seeing the state adequacy. If this were to happen to either the governor's level or the not, you could restore some of this. So that's why it's a risk, but there's also, is there a future benefit that allows you to hire, put some of these things in place that you want to, and kind of land the plane on the runway, not on the Hudson.
Thank you for your graphic description.
That's, you know,
I believe you
Saving
can do
lives.
I gotta be on the ground.
I believe you can get us on the Hudson.
That's it, right?
Thank
So,
you.
that's.
Other comments?
So we could vote on the current motion and then afterwards vote on one of these?
If we vote on the
We
current
vote.
motion, we
Then it
are
would go to
increasing
this. Okay, so
our
we do this
expenditures, so
first?
then we would have to choose on one of
So do we
these.
need to get rid of the current motion?
No, we would have to,
Just, these are all like, what do we do?
this is
first?
how we spend, this is how we fund the things we vote on.
Got it, got it.
Yeah, regardless if someone wants to
This is
add
the
in,
motion, that's all.
you know, extra fruit and vegetables and it's gonna cost us $100,000, we gotta pull it out of somewhere later on, so, that would be the way it is. Mr. Croto just asked where we potentially would be doing this when we come to time to vote for the budget. So, well, motion still stands. Is there any other questions or discussion?
I have a quick question,
Certainly, Mr. Weinberg.
if I may. Mr. Dunn, Superintendent Murphy, were there other areas where we were planning on using the extraordinary needs grant allocations, that is, the instructional funds?
Well, we have discussed two positions that, one position in particular was this social worker at Runlet. I really felt like that was a critical position, Jonathan, that was an ESSA position that I didn't want to lose. And so, as you know, we're in the process of writing grants and system of care grant, and you know, I don't have any guarantee that I'm going to get that grant. It was a 5-year grant. It was a very, very rich grant. But you know, whether we get it or not, I don't know. But I don't want to lose that. So I expect that at some point, given the results of the grants, I might come back to this board to ask them to consider that position for Runlet, because I do believe it's an important position.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are we ready to hear the motion or not?
Yes, I
Okay.
think we are, unless
I just want to make
see-
sure I have it this time.
All right, I don't see anyone else with other discussion, so
Okay.
please.
The motion is to add 2 math coaches for a total of 5 math coaches for the 23-24 school year with a wind-down plan and evidence of assessments, from assessments? Is that what you have?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is a roll call vote, so whenever you're ready.
Well, do we need who's making that motion? Am I making that motion?
No.
No, it was
It was-
already
it was
been
on the
made
table.
and
Okay,
pulled
so
from
we
the
just-
table, so the
it was
motion is already
Kara,
there.
And
So-
who was the second on
I
that?
was the second,
And
or was
Ms.
Sarah?
Walsh.
You were the second on the original
On the
motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
so second by Pam. Okay, all right, here we go.
Okay.
Mr. Richards,
No,
Ms. Walsh,
Yes.
I will vote yes. Ms. Higgins,
Yes,
Mr. Weinberg, come back to him.
You out there, Jonathan?
Mr. Cotton?
No.
okay.
That was a no.
No.
Ms. Robinson,
Yes.
Ms. Meeker,
Yes.
Mr. Croto.
Yes.
Okay. It's a 6-3 yes.
Okay. Motion carries. Further discussion of the budget. Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
Last night, Deerfield voted down its tuition agreement with Concord, and I'm wondering if we need to do anything in the budget to make the art teacher and the assistant principal positions 1 year only, because I think if this goes forward and there's a significant change, we're gonna have to make significant changes potentially in the structure of the offerings at the high school and reduce teachers in the future.
I'll let you go first then.
Well, all your positions are 1 year.
Well,
I mean, everyone gets a 1 year contract, so it doesn't really matter. Now, if it's a tenured teacher, that would give them the ability to, or a tenured position, I should say, that would give them the ability to, to bump. But we don't have bumping rights with with principals. But the teacher, clearly, if that was a tenured position, but it's a new position that we're hiring, so it's, all positions are 1 year anyway. I think, though, that if, in fact, when we do the hiring for that position, we ought to be very clear with that person that we may see a decrease in enrollment, which will affect the number of positions that we need at the high school.
and I guess part of my concern is that Mr. Reardon had said he doesn't need a full-time art teacher. He only needed half a position.
Right,
So
right.
what are we funding? And should we, I don't want kids in study halls, but I also don't want empty classes either. And should we put this off until we have a better sense of what enrollment is going to be like at the high school?
Right, I would prefer that you left it until I had a better idea where we stand before we start cutting the position. I know that, but remember, this Deerfield contract doesn't expire until '25. We have another year and, that we can work with Deerfield relative to this contract.
But that's 2 school years that they still come.
The rest of this year and next year, that's all.
Only the remainder of this year and then next year.
And then next year,
It's only 2023 right now.
24.
Right now, it expires in 24.
24.
You said 25.
Did I
so-
say 25? I meant 24.
So my-
It's 23, 24.
My clarification with Pam's request, yes, a principal position is 1 year. Next year, they get a new contract. But once a principal position's put in, it's in. So I can see where if we said, if these things happen, this position goes. I get it. We're all 1 year, except we're not. That isn't always how it is. So I agree, adding expensive positions when we could lose a couple hundred students worth of tuition. I mean, I guess we need to wait on it, but I don't know. Just knowing where cuts tend to come from, I like your question, your suggestion.
So currently in the budget, we have one full art teacher position, currently.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be clear on that. And then, and just as clarification for yours, not just loss of tuition, but loss of students, so that there would be less teachers required. So-
Right, no, right, exactly.
So that's where we would end up next year.
It may be more than just an art teacher.
Oh, I know that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yes.
that's a slippery slope, but, that's something that we have to consider. That's why you wait every year until March, and you look at the enrollments, right, at the Career and Technical Center, and you look at the high school enrollments. You have every single class and what the sign-up was for those classes, so that you know that there aren't positions that, are under enrolled. The numbers at the high school have remained fairly flat, so that's why you haven't seen any decreases, because we haven't had a significant decrease in the number of students attending. We've been able to maintain the staff that we have.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Okay. Any
Well,
other?
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I guess I
Very
go
well.
back to, we're adding a full teaching position when we don't need it. We don't need a full-time teacher. So are we gonna be running half-empty classes, or do we think that this will be fully utilized?
Oh, it'll get fully utilized. Knowing the waiting list for art classes, a half a teacher might get them by, but that art teacher won't be having classes of 5 kids. They'll be full.
But that's something that we monitor
Yeah.
with them to review class sizes and We do that immediately into the fall when the kids, October is usually our best date, October 1, that we look at all the class sizes and the enrollment. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that, but
But superintendent, if we look in the fall at a class size, we would not say, well, we didn't need you, so we're eliminating this
well, we
teacher.
can't
There's a
do that.
contract.
We
see,
have
so
a
that-
contract, so
Exactly,
you're right.
so
We
it's
can't just
not,
cut people halfway.
yeah. Okay, thank you. I just want to be very clear on that, is that we're not eliminating somebody in the fall. We got them for the whole
Right,
year.
right.
Okay. Other questions or discussion points? Any motions or amendments to the posted budget and the changes we've already made here tonight? Not seeing any. Go ahead.
Can I
Ms.
just get a
Hastings.
clarification on where we stand with the high school positions, with the principals? We didn't make any changes.
No changes
Okay.
to the posted budget.
Okay.
The only change would be to the math coaches that we had already listed, and the only thing we need to do then at that point is determine how we want to offset that expense with a revenue or a funding in this budget. Whether it's be increasing the tax rate, which I am not in favor of, or taking the money from the educational trust fund, as Mr.
That motion does.
I was going to say, as Mr. Dunn's slide behind us does it, and that would be just whichever person would like to make that motion or a motion. I am open to it.
I will move that the school board vote to pass the 23-24 fiscal year budget with all funds totaling $106,335,293, with the general fund budget of $116,118 million, appropriating $64,384,089 in local taxes and $6,985,756 in state taxes, inclusive of the following deposits and withdrawals to existing funds or expendable trust funds. Deposits: Vocational Capital Reserve Fund for an amount up to $175,681. Facilities and Renovation Trust Fund for an amount up to $2,144,000. Food Service Fund for an amount up to $35,000. Renovation and Maintenance Trust Fund for an amount up to $85,196. And also inclusive of the following withdrawals from expendable trust funds to fund appropriations: Instructional Materials Trust Fund for an amount up to $605,482. Risk Management Reserve Fund for an amount up to $839,179. School Buildings Renovation and Maintenance Trust Fund for an amount up to $150,000. Special Education Expendable Trust Fund for an amount up to $250,000. Technology Innovation Trust Fund for an amount up to $181,000. CRTC Vocational Trust Fund for an amount up to $200,000. The board authorizes the administration to make any adjustments to the FY24 budget numbers to reflect the intent of the board. My Long Island almost came out there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walsh. Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cotton. Is there any further discussion on the budget proposal before us?
Can we just re-clarify that the item number 1 under withdrawals of $605,482 from an instructional materials trust fund is not the total cost of adding in those two positions? Okay, it's 180,000, roughly 183,000.
183,000 for those.
And the rest was in there already earmarked for that.
I believe you just did, Mr. Crowe.
Thank you.
So, that is an excellent clarification. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any other discussion or comments?
Can I just say, I just want to say this is my first budget process, and I'm just so impressed with how everything happened, the work that went in, the advice from the administration, the thoughtfulness of everybody on the board. I just think it's pretty incredible, so I'm pretty proud to vote yes tonight.
I appreciate that, and I will make an amendment that recognizes that each of the individual schools and departments put a ton of work in this budget, starting, I believe, in October or September. Thank you. That all of the teachers that contributed, the administrators at all the individual schools put a lot of work in this budget, and we recognize that as well, and I would agree with you. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion points?
Here, here.
Very good. Well, I think your statements reflect the board in general. With that, this is a roll call vote, so Ms. Hastings, whenever you are ready.
Mr. Richards?
I vote yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Weinberg?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
So, the motion and the budget for the 23-24 school year passes unanimously. Further business, Superintendent or Mr. Dunn?
I'm good.
Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
I don't know if Mr. Dunn can do his magic spreadsheet. What is the percent change in the total budget? We were at 2.35%. Can you just tell us
Oh,
what that
so
is?
when you had posted, if I go to the other 183, it's probably gonna be a little over 1.1%, because right now I'm at, hold on, let me go to that last one. We were at 1.39, I believe.
Well, yeah.
Just, so probably gonna be about 1.1 something, is my guess. Is that right?
Okay.
Trying to think. Yeah, that'd be about that, because it did adjust the tap, two things went up, the revenue and the expense went up, so it should be.
Yes, so the tax rate will
Stay-
not
Oh, no,
change.
not gonna
Yeah,
change.
no, I knew that.
No.
Right.
So, you know, you're at 139 for expenditure, but you're gonna add expense and revenue, so it could be a little,
I just think this was incredibly, even from what you first submitted, was an incredibly conservative budget, given the increased costs that we've been facing. Appreciate that.
I'm not an expert, I'm not gonna be exact, but I believe that the 12-month inflation rate is around 6%, maybe a little bit over. So we appreciate the frugality of the administration in preparing this budget, and I would say, I would agree with that. Do we have any need for, first of all, do we have any need for a non-public session after this? Are you okay? Is there any further business anyone have for this board for this evening? Not seeing anything. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Higgins.
The BHs.
Seconded, I'll say
By one of the
seconded by
BHs.
Ms. Hastings. Still a roll call vote, please.
I put Barb on both the motion and the second. so-
No, yours is on.
All right. Mr. Richards?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Mr. Weinberg? Mr. Cotton?
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Rowland.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Mr. Croto?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
So there are 9 yeses and no nays. We are adjourned.